Hello peoples. I'm going to do a short review on this model today. This is the Real Steel Pathfinder. I recently had this sent to my friend, the EDC Knife Noob, who just posted a video on this a couple of days ago. So I wanted to follow up on his review with my own. I had this sent to him directly from Blade HQ. This was on sale for something like $58 or $68, which is not too bad nowadays. And when I saw this on sale, I thought of him because I know that he is fond of crossbar locks, which are really not my favorite, but I do kind of like to compare how they are from brand to brand. So at some point, I would actually like to do a video, kind of a battle of the crossbar locks. But anyway, I've seen some positive reviews on it on YouTube. I do like the overall design of it, so I figured for the price it wouldn't be bad, just for the sake of making a couple of videos. But anyway, this is the Real Steel Pathfinder. Fairly big knife. It's a 3 3/4 inch blade, and to be honest, to me it actually feels bigger than that. This feels more like a 4 inch blade in hand to me. Not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but it's a lot of blade, and that's good for, I suppose, someone who's looking for something to really work with, especially for camping or chores around the house. But if you prefer to carry something smaller, this is not your knife. So right off the bat, I think the thing that's most noticeable about this knife is the blade. So you actually have a Scandi grind on this, which is something you don't see very often. So what that means is that you actually have a relatively large flat here on the blade, but then you have a continuous grind all the way down to the edge bevel. And so then rather than a traditional edge bevel like you see on blades, you actually have a micro bevel on this. And I think you can kind of see that the way that light is catching that. And this is a pretty popular blade grind for, I think, like outdoor enthusiasts, especially those who, I guess, deal with like carving wood and things like that. So I think that's kind of unique and special to see that kind of grind done on a blade, especially at this price point. I think something like 10 years ago, Spyderco had released a model that had a similar grind. Don't recall the name of that model, but it was pretty cool. So yeah, I thought that the blade on this was really cool. And as someone who likes to sharpen, I'm curious to see, once I put my own edge on this, how it does. It is 14C28N, which is a popular blade steel for, especially at cheaper price points. It's known for being fairly tough, taking a good edge. Not the best in terms of edge retention, though. I've actually never had anything in this blade steel before, so I actually want to test this out. And then moving on to the handle, it's a pretty comfortable handle. It's kind of neutral, so that no matter how you kind of grip the knife, it's always going to work for you. And again, like I said, it feels like a big knife. I think that people with large hands would appreciate this, which is, I think, a point that my buddy, the EDC Knife Noob, made as well. And crossbar lock. Uh-oh. Can you hear my dog barking? With a pretty standard kind of deep carry stamped pocket clip, which is okay at this price point. So overall, it's a nice shape, feels good in the hand, and it's going to be very functional as well in terms of utility. Here's my gripes with this. I think that there's a pretty significant design flaw in terms of opening the knife. So it's not a major flaw, but the thumb studs are kind of narrow, they're kind of short, and they're very close to the handle. So it's actually kind of hard to get at them, and if you're not being really careful or deliberate, your thumb can actually slip right over the top of this thumb stud. So you really have to kind of dig down and get in there to open it, which wouldn't be so bad, except that, and here's the biggest gripe I have, the execution in terms of the action is not great on this one. And I don't know if I got a lemon or if this is kind of typical of this model or this brand, because this is my first experience with it. Right now, it's fairly easy to open, but there's blade play. Okay, not a crazy amount, but just a little bit. If I tighten this pivot down to the point where the blade play disappears, this action actually becomes very stiff and it becomes very difficult to open and close. And I have to say, I really do not like blade play. And realistically, a really tiny amount is not going to affect the function of the knife, the safety of the knife, anything like that. But as a collector, someone who handles a lot of these things, it's like a pet peeve of mine. I don't like blade play. To me, it makes the knife just feel like lower quality. It's not something that makes me happy. So I'm keeping the pivot loosened up just enough where it's kind of still fairly, easy to open and close. But I am very disappointed by that. I did my best to adjust it. I couldn't make it really get to the point where the action was making me happy. I even put some additional oil in there. No. I do have to say though that I really do like the tension on the crossbar lock, and I really like how it snaps back closed. And that tension also does kind of act as sort of like a pseudo detent to make the action a little snappier, which again, if the pivot was, set in a way that, I would have no blade play plus a nice smooth action at the same time, I'd be much happier with this. That being said, another gripe, and I don't know because I did send this to my friend before, before it came to me. When I first opened this up, you can kind of see in the lighting here, there's all these scratches in the finish, on that satin. And I don't know if those came from, my friend using this a little bit, but if they were there right out of the box, that is disappointing. And another thing too, sometimes when you order from a site, you don't know if the item that you've received was maybe, returned by somebody else, went back into stock on a site and then sold to you. So the fact that I've got one with not so great action and some scratches on the blade, I don't know if I just got a lemon or if I actually got something that went out to somebody, maybe got played around with, used a little bit, they didn't like it, and they just returned it, and it was sold again to me as new. You never know. I'm not going to return this, though. I'm going to keep it. Just have to say, so overall, I mean, I like the design of it. I think the blade is cool, but I'm just a little bit disappointed in it in terms of the execution. So for me, I don't know if I'm going to hang on to this. It's not, for this price, I don't really know if it's worth it for me to, put the effort into going out and selling it. It might just become like a kind of a beater or something for me. That being said, one other thing I didn't touch on. So these are green micarta handles. They actually look nicer in person than they do in the photos online. And they have a pretty reasonable semi-grippy texture. It feels pretty pleasant in hand. It's really not the nicest micarta. I wouldn't expect at this price point that you're going to get like super high quality micarta, but I've handled some other stuff from like, let's see, Best Tech, Riat, which have had like really, really nice micarta on them. This one is for sure of like a lower grade. But again, for this price, I wouldn't expect it to have the absolute best materials. Yeah, I guess that's all I really had to say about this. So, I just kind of wanted to post this, in response to my buddy, just to share my thoughts on it. But again, for those of you looking, I wouldn't dissuade anyone from purchasing this if you like the style of the blade. I was just disappointed in mine, and I'm going to chalk it up to it maybe being a lemon, because I've seen some other really positive reviews of this out there. So, and I don't think that they had the same issues I did. Anyway, hope you enjoyed, and I'll have a few other things being posted soon, so please take a look. Bye-bye.